Hello and welcome to a Talmud Israeli production. Today we'll review the highlights of this week's course of Daf Yomi study, Masechet Nazir, pages 27 through 33. Chav Zayin, 27. With respect to a chatat, the Torah says, Korbano, Bikorbano, in his korban. Hu yotzeh, ven yotzeh b'korban aviv, that you have to use your sacrifice to atone for whatever transgression requires this korban chatat, and you cannot use your father's korban chatat that might have been remaining unsacrificed as of yet after your father's passing. So it's got to be your sacrifice, not a relative's, not even your father's, whom you inherit. 28. Ha'ish madir et beno benazir. A person can make his own son a nazir, can make a neder declaring that the kid will be a nazir. V'neisha madir et bena benazir, but a mother cannot do it for her son. Ketzad, how is it the case that this can be undone? Gileach o shegilchu krovav, if the boy shaves within the term, cuts his hair of his head, or the relatives do it to him, micha o shemicha krovav, or he protests, or the relatives protest on his behalf, then there never was a nazirut. As Rashi explains, hareze batla naziruto afilu beyom achron. This erases the vow of nazirut, even if it occurs on the last day of the term. It's null and void. Chavtet, 29. Rabbi Savar, mufla samach lish derabanan. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda Savar, mufla samach lish deoraita. So the question is regarding the halachic status of the nedarim made by a boy within a year of adulthood. The mufla, where he's 12 years old, or a girl's 11 years old. So within the last year before reaching the age of bar bat mitzvah, the age of maturity, the halacha is that those nedarim have legal standing. Because the child, although not at the age of majority, is getting close to it and understands, presumably, the significance of solemn utterances, of making nedarim. The question is whether or not this halacha holds true at the level of Torah law, midoraita, or only at the level of midrabanan, rabbinic law. Rabbi holds that the law of the mufla is only drabanan, that under Torah law, bar and bat mitzvah is the cutoff point officially, after which nadarim are real, before which nadarim are not real. And only midrabanan are they real for the last year. Whereas Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda says, no, the law of the mufla in the last year before the majority is Torah law. Daf Lamed, page 30. Ketzad ha'ish megaleach al nazirut aviv. How could it be that a man will perform the shaving rituals at the end of his nazirus term using the financial resources supplied by his father? Mi shaya aviv nazir. Let's say a man was a nazir. Vehifish aviv mos. And the father, this nazir, set aside money naziruto for the conclusion purification ritual at the end of his nazirut. Umet, and he died, having never used those monies. V'amar hareni nazir amnashe glechav mot abba. And then the son who inherits the father said, I am hereby making myself a nazir on condition that I be allowed to utilize my father's set-aside monies for the sacrificial offerings that I have to bring when I conclude my term of service as a nazir. Zeu megalecha mot aviv. So that works. You can do that. Aval mi shahayahu ve'aviv nazirim. However, if both he and the father were both nazirim in the father's lifetime, and the father designated money for the sacrifices at the end of his term, and then he died, that money must go to voluntary offerings, to nedava, to the Beit HaMikdash. The son cannot use the money in that circumstance because he was already a nazir with his own obligations before that money became available to him upon his father's death. Lamed Aleph. Beit Shammai Omrim, Hekdesh Taot Hekdesh. So that the view of the house of Shammai is that consecration of assets that were done in error remain consecrated. Beit Hillel says, no, they're not holy. The consecration does not work. Ketzad, what's the example? Amar shor shachor sheyetzim beizdi rishon reza hekdesh. If a person says the ox, the black ox that comes out of my house first, is going to hereby be hekdesh, but a white ox came out, not a black one. Beit Shammai says it's still hekdesh, even though there was an error in the details, it counts. Beit Hillel says no, it doesn't count, it's not hekdesh. Dinar zav sheyala b'yadi rishon. A person says the gold coin that's going to come up in my hand first when I go into the coin jar, that's going to be hektish. And it turned out it wasn't a gold coin; it was a silver coin. Asa shel kesef. Well, again, Beit Shammai says hektish, it's consecrated. Beit Hillel says eina hektish, not consecrated. This reminds one of the story of Yiftach and Yiftach's daughter. He thought an animal was going to come out of the house, and it turned out it was a human being, his own daughter, that came out of the house, and what the consequences of that neder might have been. Lamed Bet 32. Hayu mahalchin baderach. They're traveling along the road. V'echad ba kenegdan, and one person is approaching from the other direction. Amar echad mehen plareni nazir shezeh ploni. So one guy says to his fellow, I hereby declare myself to be a nazir if that guy off in the yonder is so-and-so, is John Doe. But they don't really know exactly who he was at the time. They were hoping as he got closer that they would find out exactly the identity of that fellow. But what happened? The guy turned around and went the other way. So they never found out whether he was that man, the John Doe, whom this fellow said, I'm a nazir if that's John Doe. So is the person who made the vow in fact going to be a nazir? Answer, no, ain't no nazir. Why? Because we have no proof that it really was that guy. Rabbi Shimon says, if I was in that circumstance, then I would have done the following. I would have said, Im yekidvari, if I was right, and I don't know whether I'm right or wrong, but if I was right, harini nazir chova, behold, I'm a nazir by my obligation. I said I would do it, I have to do it. V'im lav, and if it turned out that guy was not the John Doe, harini nazir nedava, then I voluntarily accept upon myself nizirut. Meaning, either way, I'm going to be a nazir, whether because I have to be on the basis of that neder, or on the basis of my current nedava. So it's a brilliant idea to cover his bases. Lamed Gimel 33. Tam mishum dihirtia la'achra. The reason why, in that previous case, the person is not a nazir, according to the majority opinion, it's because we never found out the identity of the fellow, the so-called John Doe. However, if he were to show up and it turned out it was that guy, then yes, this vower would have to be a nazir. Money, but whose opinion is that? If you want to say it's Rabbi Tarfon, that this guy is a nazir, that can't be, because at the hour when the nazirut vow was made, it was uncertain whether that fellow really was John Doe. And in the viewpoint of Rabbi Tarfon, does such a vow of nazirut actually work? No. V'hatanya, we learned in a Braita, Rabbi Tarfon said, that the laws of nazirut are only concerning unambiguous and absolutely clear utterances. Since this was not an unambiguous or clear utterance when it was made, and was only clarified at some later time, then, in Rabbi Tarfon's view, he's not a nazir. Everyone have a great week.